Hi, welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 127, and I'm Lisa, your host, also known as Fiber Nymph on Ravelry, Plurk, and Instagram. Today, it is not quite too hot. It's cooler than it was last week when I recorded, and obviously, I'm doing a little bit better because I'm not dying of heat stroke yet, so yay for that. I have a whole lot to talk about today. Last weekend was the zombie knit apocalypse, and I have tons to tell you about that, but I'm going to wait and do that a little later in the podcast rather than right now. I'm just going to get started with everything else because I actually have a lot of knitting to show you thanks to the fact that I was in the car for a lot of hours. I also did a lot of knitting at the retreat, though. I'm good about that. When I go to retreats, I know a lot of people say, oh, I never get any knitting done at a knitting retreat. I tend to, just because I can sit and talk as well as knit, and I don't mind doing that. So anyway, lots to talk about today, so let's get started. First, I want to say hello to Tammy, who's from Montana. She introduced herself on the 90% Knitting board, so welcome, Tammy. Thank you for joining and for watching. Okay, I've got some finished objects to show you. That's always exciting, right? You've seen the first one of these. This is the Heat Waves Vanilla Bean sock. I finished the second one on the trip. So I have a pair. This one has a tag because it was on my display. So now this one could also be on my display, I guess. I don't usually put double socks out. And it's kind of in the back of my brain. I don't want anybody picking them up and wandering off with a pair of my socks from the display. I know that's really unlikely because knitters tend to be fairly nice and honest people, but I've heard of it happening to people before. So I just like to play it safe, and I usually only put one sock out. I don't know. Anyway. The second one is actually fairly matchy-matchy to the first. I'm pleased. It's not identical, but it's fraternal, so I'm good. So yeah, probably won't be wearing these. Well, obviously I'm not going to be wearing them anytime soon anyway because it's, a bazillion degrees now. Happy summer, by the way. What was Sunday? Was Sunday the first day of summer? This calendar here doesn't say. I think it was. I think it was the 22nd this year. So happy summer. But yeah, I'm going to keep these nice for the display for the time being. So I'm very happy to have those finished. The Vanilla Bean sock pattern is by Emily O'Grady, who it was really actually very funny because I was sitting next to her at a podcaster panel that was happening at the retreat, and I was knitting on those. I'm like, I love your pattern. So that was fun. And that's my Bounce Base, the Heat Waves colorway, and I knit those on my US 1.5s, which is my normal sock knitting needle fingering weight, generally speaking. 2.5 millimeter needles. Okay, moving on. I took with me on the trip a ball of hand spun because that, as you know, has become my default brainless project to do Afghan squares for this ever continuing Afghan, hand spun Afghan. So this is the one that I finished, and I know that there's a hole here. I have no idea why there's a hole there. I must have just not picked up a stitch there, so I'm probably going to have to finagle that together and close that hole up. At any rate, this is, I honestly don't know what fiber this is. I can't remember. It wasn't tagged that I can think of. I'll have to look over there because I think there might be like one more itty bitty skein of it. I'm guessing it was probably some Cozy Makes or Cozy Knits. I don't remember what she goes by now. Fiber that I got ages ago. The colors sort of remind me of her colors, so I'm guessing that that's probably what it was. But I had two balls of it, two decent sized balls, which I joined together whenever I wound. It's definitely not a superwash wool. That's the other reason it makes me think it was maybe Cozy. So this is part of it, and I actually had plenty left to start a second ball or a second square. Oops. So that's as far as I am on the second one, and there's still a good bit left. So lots of pinks and some green and some yellow, a little bit of brown. So I'm still enjoying working on those squares. I have this plan in my brain. I don't know that it's going to come to fruition. I would love to make both Christopher and Emma an Afghan for like Christmas presents, and Zach. I guess I've never made Zach an Afghan. So I kind of owe all 3 of my kids Afghans at some point. I know I'm not going to be getting 3 Afghans done before Christmas, but that's a thought. But anyway, my thought, the reason I brought it up now is because if I can do them in small bite-sized pieces like this, like squares or even long strips or something, they're so much easier because I still have that huge garter stitch Afghan. Do you remember? I started that years ago. I tend to knit on it during football season. It's never going to be finished. It's so huge and cumbersome at this point. Plus, if you remember, I made it like, I think it's going to be like 8 feet long. If I kept going, I could probably cover my queen size bed with it completely. I'm not going to go that far. I just can't. It'll kill me. It'll weigh 500 pounds if I did it that much. But anyway, big one-piece Afghans are not my thing. I'm learning that with that big Afghan. So that's why I think if I do ones for my kids eventually, whether it's this year or another time, it's going to be in blocks or strips that I can just, chunk off here and there and be done. That's my plan. So, okay, that was a little bit of diversion. What else did I work on? Oh, okay, so those are the only things that are finished. But that's pretty good progress. I also worked on the lace scarf, the 1-row lace scarf pattern, which I'm doing as a wrap a little wider than the scarf. Now, I showed this to you last time. Okay, here, let me show you the yarn first. Here's the ball. It's the A Murder of Crows colorway, which is showing up much brighter and lighter online than it is, or on my screen, than it is in real life. I left this window open today, and remember last time my curtain was fluttering in on me, so I've got the curtain open. That's why the lighting's a little bit odd today. I just couldn't bring myself to close this window because it's getting close, and I don't want to start having heat stroke again. Anyway, so A Murder of Crows colorway on my Elegance base. Now, remember when I showed it to you last time, I'd started it, but I'd only started it on 40 stitches, and it was significantly narrower than this. And I know it's going to block open a good bit, but I wanted it to be wider than that. So on the drive out to Minnesota during one of the times I wasn't driving, I ripped it out and cast it on again with 60 stitches. And I like it much better. I mean, it's still not as wide as it could be, but I didn't want to make it so wide that I was going to get bored on the rows. It's a super easy pattern. Like I said last time, it's 1 row. Very easy. Well, first of all, I'm using Addy turbos, and I'm using US 3s. The pattern, by the way, is by Turvid on Ravelry. That's her username and the name that I saw. The US 3, I love Addy turbos. They've always been one of my favorite types of needles, but I've come to realize over the years, even though at first, when I first started using them, they felt really pointy to me because I was used to using bamboo needles back then. They're not significantly pointy. Now, these are not Addy lace. These are just the regular Addy turbos, so they are pretty blunt compared to a lot of needles. I don't know if you can see those. There we go. So I ordered a pair of, I just placed a big needle order with the Loopy U. Actually, on my way home from Minnesota, I was on my tablet ordering needles. I think I ordered a pair of Haya Sharps for this because I think that'll work way better. I was having trouble, first of all, knitting lace in the car, even if it's just 1 row that you have to work on, is a little challenging because, the car moves and there's bumps and everything. And I had goofed up a couple of times. Now, I managed to salvage it, and I did actually tink back. Like, I tinked back probably a couple of rows a couple different times because I don't have a lifeline in. I tend to not use a lifelines. I probably should, but I'm not. And so there were a couple places where it's really easy to read this lace because you're doing the same thing, and like I know what should be happening on which stitches, and like when I get to the yarn over, I know what I should be doing. And so there were a couple places I was off, and I knew where the problem was, so I tinked back till I got it right. but it was a little bit hard to do this as car knitting. So this is the extent of how far I got knitting it on the way out and on the way back. And I did not work on this at all while I was out in Minnesota. But I don't know, I've got probably what, about 3.5, 4 inches there. That's not too bad. It's a fun project, and I like it, and it goes pretty quickly. So it's going to just be something that I'm going to be knitting on, you know, for a while, obviously. I don't think it'll be a finished object to have on my display by SSK next month, but maybe by Indie Knit and Spin in November. And I've got lots of yarn sticking out here, so I'm trying to get it back in the bag. Okay, get in there. There we go. Alrighty, so that was one thing that I worked on. And then the last, is this the last one that I worked on? Yes, the last thing that I've been working on is my Age of Brass and Steam. I decided to take that along as well. I haven't worked on that in a while. You haven't seen it for a while. But I made really good progress. Matter of fact, I think when you saw it last, I had just recently joined the second ball of yarn. I have 5 that I'm going to use for this whole thing. So here's, it's getting big. And it's still on the short 24-inch needles. This is another set of needles I ordered. Same needles. These are the Knitter's Pride, just the regular wooden ones, not the carbons. But I really love these needles. And they are, for wooden needles, they're nice and smooth. Like they don't have that grip that bamboo needles have. It's a really nice smooth finish. And so I ordered the 32-inch set of these as well. I actually treated myself to 4 sets of 32-inch needles. I think I got size 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 maybe in the Knitter's Pride, and then the 3 sets of those same ones except the size US 7s. And then the pair of Hayahayas, I ordered those from the Loopy U. I haven't bought needles in a long time because I've got a bunch of needles, but like I said, a lot of them are Addi Turbos. A lot of them are the bamboos, the old ones. I just don't use bamboo needles anymore. I can't knit fast enough on them. So aside from a few 16-inch sets that I have that I can use for hats, and hats I don't really mind using them for, I just don't use the bamboos anymore. The Addis I like, but they're expensive. I love Hayahayas, both the regular and the sharps. And as far as wooden needles, these are definitely my favorites. I'm not an interchangeable needle person, like, you know, to buy a set of interchangeables. I don't like interchangeables. I don't know why. It's just a personal preference. So I don't mind purchasing like several sets of the same size, same length, if they're sizes that I use a lot. And the Knitter's Pride are really affordably priced, as are the Hayahayas. So those are my go-to needles anymore when I order needles. So anyway, that's another little tangent there. But this is this is the progress I made. This is actually, let's see, I'm trying to see where, I can't see where I joined. Can I? Let me see. Oh yeah, I can. This is a superwash yarn. It does not feel like a superwash yarn. This is that Scholler and Stahl Limbo color. It's a discontinued yarn that I've had in my stash forever and ever and ever. But I thought it was non-superwash, and it isn't. So you can't spit join. So I've got ties on the back. Well, not ties, but I've got ends that will need to be woven in. I usually try to have my new balls join in on the edge so they're not as obvious. But both times I misjudged how much yarn I had left, and so they're going to be joined in the middle. Well, this one's sort of towards the end of a row. But honestly, this yarn is busy enough that I really don't think it's going to show in the front, and I'm not too worried about it. But anyway, I pretty much knit, here's where I left off last time you saw it. So I've got another 5 or 6 inches here, which is almost the whole second ball. So I really went to town on this. And again, this is a nice, easy, mindless sort of pattern. That looks like something weird right there. I wonder what I did. I don't know. Anyway, I love the colors. You know, when I first started telling you about this, I told you I've been holding on to this yarn, waiting for the perfect pattern. I've started so many things out of this yarn, and it just never seemed quite right. But this is definitely it. I love how this is turning out. And as I've also told you, I goofed whenever it was time to do this. This is the first eyelet row. and I goofed and went too far before I did the second eyelet row, which is right here, and I didn't care because it's such a simple pattern. I'm just spacing them all out. Matter of fact, I did count, and I got to the point where I had the same number of rows that I had between the first and second eyelet row after the second eyelet row, so it was time to do the third eyelet row, and then I wasn't thinking, and I just kept going with the pattern another 2 rows. So this one's actually like 2 rows longer. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. This is not like a precision thing for me. I just love how it's looking, and it'll be even easier to show you once I get the 32-inch needles, which will hopefully be coming in the mail today or tomorrow, and I can transfer it over. And I do have the 3rd ball joined now, so I just love the colors. These colors make me so happy. It's like almost sort of like rainbow colors, except really muted. So fun, fun, fun. Okay, so that was all of my knitting. It was a lot of knitting. I can't remember the last time I've done that much knitting, quite frankly, in a week's time. So yay for car trips and knitting retreats. I didn't do any spinning. There were people had their spinning wheels at the retreat, and I was sort of sitting there feeling sad that I didn't have mine, but I probably could have fit it in the car if I really, really wanted to. I could have made room, but I knew I wasn't really going to have time to do all that. And I was perfectly happy just knitting. It was great. So perhaps some spinning will happen now that I'm back home. And I'm not quite back in full-blown work mode yet. I'm kind of giving myself this week as a buffer week, so I could do some spinning possibly. We'll see. Okay, well, that's all for the knitting. Talking about the podcast, I know we're going to talk about this again. I've added the missing podcast episodes to Podcast Garden. From what I understand from feedback from people, they do not automatically download when you resubscribe. Now, you can go to Podcast Garden and watch them. I'm not sure if there's a way to download them from there. I honestly don't know. I think there is. I'm pretty sure you can download them from there. At any rate, those 2 missing episodes continue to be confounding for some people, and I'm sorry. I really am. I'm doing my best to make them available. The last podcast I put both on Blip, so things are still going to Blip because that's what I embed onto my blog from, and they're going to Podcast Garden, which is the new RSS, which is what is providing the new RSS feed. I keep forgetting to put things on YouTube, and I am sorry, because I know some people are watching from YouTube. So I'm going to catch up with that today after I finish this episode. I will try to remember to upload to all 3 places. I will get the hang of this new routine eventually. The only thing that is still not happening is iTunes. Some people are able to get the new episodes through iTunes. Some aren't. I actually got an email from iTunes today letting me know that my feed has stopped. So I guess they finally caught on that the feed has stopped. It's not working. And they've given me a link that takes me directly to where I need to go to put the new information in. I tried to do that before I started recording. And lo and behold, I can't because I have not yet uploaded my cover art to Podcast Garden. So I need to do that. This is on my agenda for today. And hopefully I will then be able to get it on iTunes, and this whole big mess will hopefully be over and figured out. But thank you for staying with me if you've been, hanging in here through all these technical conundrums. Thank you. I appreciate your patience. Okay, new knit along. I told you last week that I had one in the works, that I hadn't figured out all the details yet, but I do now. I have them all, and I'm ready to share them with you, and I'm really excited about this one, and I hope you will be too. I wanted to do something that would be an ongoing knit along, but also have smaller components to it. So here's what it is. I'm calling it the Head to Toe Knit Along, and it's going to begin July 1st. And what we're going to do, it's going to be a 4-month-long knit along. So if you're starting to think about knitting holiday items, this could be a really good one for you because there's small components and then there's larger components, and you can pick and choose what you want to take part in. You can do all of them, you can do some of them, doesn't matter. So here's how it's going to work. It's going to be July, August, September, October. In July, okay, and also I should point out, I said knit along. It could be a crochet along. This particular one really does not lend itself too much to being a weave along, like if your craft is weaving. Some of the things you could weave, but not all of them probably. And it really does not directly involve spinning, though if you wanted to spin your yarn for what you're going to knit or crochet, that would be perfectly acceptable. It's just not a category in and of itself. Okay, although Tour de Fleece is coming up, so we'll have to do something for Tour de Fleece too, maybe. I don't know. Let's just focus on the knit along for right now. So here's how it's going to work. July, we're going to start with the head, okay? And so anything that you could knit to wear on your head, a hat, a headband, a kerchief, you know, whatever you would knit that you would wear on your head, that is an acceptable item for the July knit along, and that will run from July 1st through July 31st. Okay. In August, it will be neckwear. We're going to move down the body. You sensing the theme here? Okay. So neckwear, it could be a scarf, it could be a cowl. I'm going to include small shawlettes on this one. Pretty much anything, not an even start, you know what I mean? Small, you know, the little 400, 600 yard shawlette kind of things. Anything that would do your neck and your upper back. Okay, those kind of items. September, we're going to move on down to your hands and your arms. So that would be mitts, mittens, gloves, wristlets, gauntlets, sleeves. I've seen people knit sleeves. Or what do I want to say? Why is it escaping me? I don't know what they're called, actually. Like where you knit one big long strip and it actually does go across part of your back, but it's just sleeves. Do you know what I'm talking about? Shrug, a shrug. Oh my goodness. A shrug if it's not an excessive amount of yardage. I mean, if it's no more than 600 yards or so, that would qualify for that as an arm thing too. So that will be September. And then October, we're going to jump down to the lower part of our body and do feet and legs. So socks, slippers, leggings, if you're really, you know, into that. Leg warmers, anything foot-oriented would count here. These do not have to be adult-sized items. They can be child-sized items. Just saying that too. So that is what will be July, August, September, October. Now, I realize there's a whole bunch of other body parts that we aren't covering here, but some of them are bigger. So all 4 months, July through October, you could do any of those individual ones, but if you want to knit something larger, and by large, I'm saying 1,000 yards or more. So a sweater, a large shawl, if you knit a skirt or a dress or something really big, anything that you're going to knit that's going to take more than 1,000 yards, that will qualify as its own category, and it can be done between July 1st and October 31st. So you've got the whole 4 months to do that. Okay? I realize there's probably things that you're going to say, what does this count as? If you have questions, feel free to ask. I'm going to post a thread for the whole knit along on the Ravelry board, on the 90% knitting board. So there will be one main thread for the entire head to toe knit along. And then each month I will post not a spoiler thread, but a pictures only, a finished object thread, so that you can post your pictures there. So there will be one, I'll be posting one for July for the headwear, and I'll be posting the body one now as well. Obviously, it's probably going to take a little while to finish a sweater or something large, but at least the thread will be there waiting for you whenever you're ready. What I will end up doing then is each month, so July, August, September, October, at the end of each month, I'll close the thread for that month, and I'll do a drawing, or more than one drawing, depending on how many people post things, for each month. So there will be at least one drawing for each month. One for headwear, one for neckwear, one for hands and arms, one's for feet and legs. Okay? There will also be one drawing, at least one drawing, or maybe more, depending on how many people take part, for the body one, which I will obviously do that one at the end of the 4 months. Okay. Then, lastly, if you take part in all 4 monthly knit-alongs, so you do July, you have a finished object in July, in August, September, and October, and you have a finished object for the body at the end of by the end of the 4 months, that will be a special drawing for just those people who did all 5 things. Now, I know this is a lot of information, and I'm going to write this out as clearly as I possibly can when I post it. You can do any number of any of these things, as long as it's an individual finished object, and like for hands and feet, it has to be both of them to count as a finished object. So in July, if you want to knit 5 hats, perfect. You can post an individual picture of 5 hats, and each one of those is a drawing for you, a drawing entry, right? You can do chemo hats, you can do preemie hats, you can do whatever kind of hats you want to do. Just 1 hat per picture. You know, each individual unique finished object gets 1 picture, and it's 1 entry. Same with the neck, same with the hands and arms. You get the picture. Okay, you can have as many entries as you want each month, as long as they were started on the 1st of the month and finished by the last day of the month. This one is not one where you could have started it a while ago. This has to be done within the actual month, calendar month, okay? You can have as many of those as you want. And those are all drawing entries. The only thing that will not count, and same with the body. If you want to knit 4 sweaters in 4 months, God bless you, number 1. But again, those are 4 individual entries for that particular drawing. For that big drawing, though, if you've done something in July, August, September, October, and a big body project, the fact that you've done that, you're only going to get entered into that drawing 1 time. So that's a 1 drawing per person, or 1 entry per person thing. Does that make sense? I hope I explained that well. Yeah. Anyway, if you have questions, feel free to PM me or ask your questions on the board once I get that thread up. I'm looking forward to this. I think it'll be a lot of fun, both just for the fact that, you know, you can get, a lot of these are small projects. Like the monthly ones, I consider those to be pretty small projects. So you should be able to get them out and not have it feel burdensome or overwhelming to you. And the larger project one, if you have time to take part in that, great. If not, that's fine too. This is meant to be fun. I don't want anybody feeling, you know, burdened and stressed out by this. You're welcome to double dip. If anybody else, any other podcasters or anyone else are doing a knit along, and what their knit along coincides with what is going on in our knit along, and you want to do that, perfectly fine. I have no problem with that. Check with your other knit alongs to make sure they don't have a problem with it too. Yeah, so that's it. I'm really thinking this is going to be fun, and I'm going to hopefully knit along with you. That's my goal. So let the knitting along begin. And I realize this is going to overlap with Tour de Fleece, so you spinners might be really busy in July. I keep meaning to look up the dates for Tour de Fleece. Hang on, I'm going to look those up right now. Tour de Fleece this year starts Saturday, July 5th and runs until Sunday, July 27th. Okay, so that's pretty much the largest chunk of July. But if you can take part and knit a hat too, great. If not, it's fine. If you prefer to spend your time spinning, I totally understand that. I actually don't have any plans to do like a team or anything for Tour de Fleece. I always just kind of participate very loosely. The last couple years, I don't think I've loose is probably even generous as far as terminology for what I've done. I don't know what I'm going to do this year. I'd love to hear what you guys are going to do. I'll start a Tour de Fleece thread anyway on the board so that you guys can talk about it. That would be fun. Or if somebody else gets there before me, feel free to start the thread. Okay, so that is the new knit along, the head to toe knit along. So remember, begins July 1st. Yay. Okay, the only other thing I want to talk about now is the zombie knit-pocalypse. I have survived the zombie knit-pocalypse. I'm all in one piece. It was fun. Really, really, really fun. I've gone to so many knitting retreats, and I have to say, I think this is probably one of my favorite ones I've ever been to. And mainly because it was a really relaxed, laid back retreat. The planning of it. Everything was just sort of optional. There was tons of classes you could take, you didn't have to take. And what made that nice was they were free. I mean, it was all people volunteering to teach these things. At least I'm assuming they were volunteers, you know, and you didn't have to sign up and pay and then feel like you were obligated to go because you paid. And, you know, because sometimes when you get there, you just sort of want to socialize. So anyway, it was really set up well. Amy and Megan outdid themselves. I didn't go last year, but I will say this year was wonderful. And I would love to go back again. I don't know if I'll get to go next year, but I'd love to go back again sometime because it was fun. We left Wednesday. Jim did end up going with me. He wasn't originally sure if he was going to be able to or not because he had some other stuff going on, but he did end up going with me, so that was nice. I didn't have to make the 15-hour drive by myself, which is always a bonus. But anyway, we left Wednesday morning, drove all day. We drove through a lot of rain and a lot of construction traffic, some of which overlapped, mostly around Chicago. That was a lot of fun. Not. But we got there, checked in, and the hotel was very nice. It's right across the street from the Mayo Clinic, and there's a bunch of hotels there that I think mainly pretty much cater to a lot of people who go to the Mayo Clinic, and so there's a lot of, it's kind of a medical vibe, sort of, because you see wheelchairs a lot, and you see people who are obviously not feeling well, so that was a little odd. I had to get used to that, but it was nice, and I just kept thinking about that. They're here because they're at the Mayo Clinic, and they're hopefully getting the help they need, so that was neat. But it's a beautiful area. Rochester is a gorgeous city, at least the area that I was in. It was very bright, very clean. I want to think probably that the Mayo Clinic has something to do with that their presence there probably impacts, you know, the surroundings a lot. But it was beautiful. There was this wonderful courtyard in between the hotel. We were at the Kaler and the Marriott, which are connected. That was the other thing that was so cool. It took me a while to catch on. There's a skyway. I thought it was just between the parking garage and those two hotels, but apparently the skyway actually goes like around the city. And if I would have had more time, it would have been fun to have seen how far you could go, like walking around the skyway. I never actually found a map of it. I'm sure there is one, but I thought that was pretty neat. So anyway, but there was this wonderful courtyard where the one day they had like this international festival going on there, and it was all day. There were just different international music and dance and singing acts going on all day long. It was so cool. I didn't get to see a lot of it because it was Saturday, which was the market day. But while we were eating lunch, we were sitting out there and watching it. So that was nifty. Tons of restaurants, and I did not have one bad meal the entire time I was there. I mean, we ate at the hotel a few meals because it was like this little, like a grill, cafe kind of grill place. We ate a couple times there. There was a martini bar. That was a lot of fun. Oh my goodness, we tried all kinds of different martinis. So fun. What else? There was some nice restaurants. We went to Chester's a couple of nights and had like really nice meals. There was, what was it, Dooley's Pub. They had an assortment of Long Island iced teas, which was also interesting. I only got to try one. I had deep fried cheese curds. Apparently authentic cheese curds are not battered and deep fried, I came to learn, but I've never had authentic cheese curds, so I wouldn't know. But these were deep fried and they were so good. And then we went to, what was the other restaurant? Newt's, which apparently has been voted the best, Rochester's best hamburger for 12 years in a row. Yeah, we went out with Steve and Andy, Steve from Dramatic Knits, for dinner. We went there, and that was fun. And then there's Panakuchen. Okay, I did not know what a Panakuchen was until we got there, but we got, in our goodie bags, we got coupons for Panakuchen, $5 off coupons. And it's a pancake, but it's like a stuffed pancake, but it's not really a pancakey pancake. It's more like almost like a crepe, like a thick crepe is how I would describe it. It was interesting. I got the blueberry one the one day that we were there, and it, like, about halfway through, it was like almost enough. Like, I didn't need to eat the whole thing just because it was sort of, I don't even know how to describe it. It was good. I liked it, but it's probably not something that I would want to eat a whole lot of. So anyway, but we went there, and it's really fun because when they serve it, they come running out of the kitchen. Literally, they're running out of the kitchen yelling, "Pannenkoeken," as they bring it to your table. It was so funny. It's a Dutch thing. Not the singing so much, but the actual pannenkoeken is a Dutch traditional recipe or something. So anyway, that was fun. What else? Let's see. So Wednesday, okay, Thursday then, checked in to, or registered, got to registration for the retreat, got to see everybody, and it was really laid back. Like, Jim was able to hang out with me, like, in the common areas and everything. They didn't care. That was nice, because a lot of retreats are like, if you're not a retreat goer, you can't sit with us. And, which I understand, because it's a contract thing with the hotel for a certain number of people. I get that. But it was just really nice that we had that option this time. And I'm sorry I keep playing with my nose, but I feel like I have fiber or something in it. Which, like, that's the first time that's ever happened, right? Anyway, so what did I do Thursday? Oh, Thursday was the trip to Ginny's fabric shop. That was the only thing I did, like, official thing that well, no, that's not true. That was the only official thing I had been signed up for, was to take this little walking field trip a couple blocks away to the store. And I did get buttons. I don't know. I'm not going to show them all to you. I've got so much stuff. This is going to verge into new things. I'll show you the buttons when we get there. But oh my gosh, walls and walls of buttons. Like, not hanging like you see them in Joann's. They were in drawers, so like there was a sample button on the outside, then you had to open the drawer to get to the ones. Really neat. It was just, I love buttons, and anytime you come across them in quantity like that, so much better. So that was that. And then in the afternoon on Thursday, there was the podcaster panel, which was fun. I've done those before. And basically, there was probably about 20 of us. And I hadn't actually signed up to take part in that, but it didn't matter. You could. So there was a good number of podcasters there. And it was just fun to sit up there, and people could ask us questions or say things and tell us stuff. It was fun. I'm not an extrovert by nature. I know that actually came up. Somebody asked how many podcasters considered themselves an introvert versus an extrovert, and a lot of us raised our hand as introvert, and which I guess surprises people, because you wouldn't think an introvert would really want to get in front of a camera and talk to people. But see, I'm the only person here. I'm alone. I can't see you when I'm doing this. In my mind, I know you're going to be watching it eventually, but it doesn't bother me. And really, the whole introvert versus extrovert thing is more an issue of how you recharge. And I do recharge by getting away, which was why it was really nice to have a hotel room to go to after the podcast thing, or after anything, where you can just sort of retreat a little bit and recharge and regroup and get ready for the next thing. So anyway, okay, so that was mainly Thursday. Friday, I didn't have anything that I had to do until later in the day, and I ended up not doing it anyway. Again, that whole laid back, take the class, don't take the class, doesn't matter. So we had planned to use Thursday as our day to go out and kind of sightsee. So the first thing we did, we went to Pannenkoeken for breakfast that day. And then we went to the Rochester Harley-Davidson dealership to get shirts, which I'm wearing. I don't know if you can't see it. There it is, Harley-Davidson. It's kind of a tradition. If we go someplace that we haven't been before, we like to find that, because, Jim has a Harley, and it's always fun to have Harley shirts. So we got our shirts and ogled all the bikes because they were cool. And then we left there, and we drove about 45 minutes the opposite direction, and we went to the Spam Museum. Yes, Virginia, there is a Spam Museum. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. I mean, it didn't take long to go through. We were there maybe an hour or so, I guess. I will post some pictures. Actually, I'm going to post some pictures of all this stuff that I'm talking about from the retreat towards the end, at the end of the podcast today. But yeah, the Spam Museum was just so funny. I mean, you think about Spam, and it's not, like, I don't really eat Spam too often, but I remember it as a kid. My dad liked Spam. It was just, it was different. It was fun. It was a fun, quirky thing to do. So I'm glad we got to do that. So that was pretty much our day Thursday. And then we got back, mid-afternoon, late afternoon. We went to lunch. And then I went over to the retreat, which I was supposed to do the yoga for knitters class, which I actually really wanted to do. But at that point, I kind of just wanted to sit and socialize. So that's what I ended up doing. And then that was Friday. Saturday was the market. So that was pretty much my day. The market was fabulous. Oh my goodness. It was so nice to have help there too. Jim, Emma's my usual helper, but since she wasn't with me, Jim was a wonderful sport and helped out. And I think he was maybe a little shell-shocked at just how crazy knitters can be when they're shopping for yarn in a situation like that, because we were slammed. Like Saturday morning, pretty much the booth was just full constantly until maybe the last half hour or so. And we finally worked out a system as far as where we could both be working with customers. So he was kind of standing there and he would write down what they had that they were getting, and then they would come over to me and I would facilitate the payment however they were paying. That ended up being a really good system. But by the time we got our first break, where there weren't a mob of people, I looked over at him and he's like, he just had this look on his face like, they're crazy. It's like, yeah, we are, but it was fun. I think he had a good time. Now, whether or not he would ever choose to do that again, I don't know. I can't speak for him on that. But it was nice. I was glad that he was there. And he got to see me in my element and what I do. So that was sort of fun. My world and my people. And so then we had lunch and then came right back because we only had an hour for lunch. And that was the day of the International Festival. So we got to watch that a little bit. And then the afternoon was the public shopping hours. And then we wrapped it up and took everything down and we were done. Every day, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 5:30 to 6:30, there was a group time where they did door prize drawings and things like that. That was nice. So you got to actually see everybody because they had enough door prizes donated that there was enough prizes for everyone to get at least one. Some people got a second one. So that was nifty. Got to actually put faces with names that you know from Ravelry. You don't always get to do that at retreats. And it was fun too because during that last day, there was 3 people that got called who I either knew they were there and had seen them at a distance but hadn't gotten to talk to them. But there was a couple people who I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know she was here because I hadn't crossed paths yet. And so after that, I kind of made a beeline around the room trying to just say hi to those people. So anyway, and then Saturday or Sunday, packed up early in the morning and headed out and got home. The drive home wasn't quite as long as the drive there. But anyway, let me show you some of the goodies. First of all, we got these awesome goodie bags, which this is what they look like. This is not what was in them, or at least not all of it. But they were full of wonderful stuff. We got a Zombie Knit Apocalypse cup, which I have not used yet. Obviously, it still has the plastic on it. Got these awesome mugs. Aren't they great? They're so cool. I love it. Like, I don't need another mug in my life, but I definitely will use this one because it's just a fun mug. And we got tape measures, Zombie Knit Pocket tape measures. There was also a pen, but the pen I know is now in my purse because I've been using it. And then each goodie bag also, there was also like a lot of little stuff that I think, there were these little Notion containers. But each bag had a skein of yarn that came from one of the dyers who was going to be there. 30 of them were from my yarn that I contributed. However, I did not want my own yarn, so I ended up with a goodie bag that came from Leading Men Fiber Arts, the yarn, which I was really excited about because I love Steve. He's awesome. He and Andy have a wonderful color sense, and I love their yarn. So this was their retreat colorway. It's called You Betcha. And this is on their Showstopper base, which is the same base that I've used before from them. It's the one I did the foliage socks out of. It's wonderful. It's squishy. But I just love the colors. And I can't remember if I showed you the one I did. And I don't even have one. Actually, I do. It's like right there. That's my skein of the one I did, but I'm sure you'll see pictures of it somewhere else on somebody else's podcast. So anyway, and actually there may be a few in the shop update this week because I had a few leftovers from the market. So unless I'm leaving that up for grabs from people who are actually at the retreat first, but if there's any left by Friday, I'll put them in the general shop. Let's see what else. I need to look something up here real fast. So there were all these things. Oh my goodness. I was really good at the market. I did not buy a whole heck of a lot. I behaved. So I'm going to show you that stuff in a minute, but I wanted to show you a couple of gifts I got. Well, first of all, I did get my my door prize. Is this really cute little sock-sized bag, and look, it's got little socks on the fabric. Isn't that adorable? So this was my prize, and it was from, let me find the card. It's from Prairie Bag Works. So that was that, and then it also had some little knit cards, like you can put on gifts, knit for somebody, by somebody. So those were in there. And there was also a little tin of zombie Knitpocalypse stitch markers, or zombie stockinette zombie stitch markers from Little Skein in the Big Wool. And they're really adorable. They're just little, you know, these kind of stitch markers, but then the one that marks your beginning has the little zombie Knitpocalypse emblem on it. Isn't that adorable? So those were in there too. So that was my door prize that I got. Then I had a couple of really sweet, sweet viewers of the podcast who gave me gifts. You don't have to do that ever, but it's so appreciated. I loved it. Corey, who is I Rock Knits, she gave me this really cute little bag. I think the saying is really cute. If you could spend an hour with anyone living or dead, what would you knit? She gave me the bag along with some dryer balls, which I've never used dryer balls before, but I've heard of them and I can't wait to try them out. And there's also a pattern in here for the zombie dishcloth. So that was a sweet gift, and thank you again, Corey. I really hope she doesn't mind that I'm showing that on the podcast and saying who it was. I didn't ask, but I'm assuming she wouldn't mind. And then Sally from Idaho, who was absolutely adorable. I've never met her before this retreat, and she was so sweet. She gave me this really cute hand-knit washcloth mitt with soap, and it's huckleberry soap, and it smells divine. Like, my whole office smells like this soap right now, but I guess huckleberries are native to her area in Idaho. So thank you, Sally. Thanks again. I'm so happy to meet you too. Anyway, so those were the goodies, but as far as the actual the market, I was really pretty good, I have to say. Oh, here's my buttons. I don't know if this is going to really be very exciting for you because I'm not going to take them out, but there was just, you know, different kind of buttons, like buttons that you don't necessarily find. You're not going to find these kind of buttons at Joann's. These, I think, might be my favorite. They're, there we go. I don't know if you can see. They're really cool. They're like an inlay kind of button, and they're blue. And there's a couple of pewter buttons. And these are pretty cool too. The yellow ones that I got, I have yellow ones like this and green. I'm thinking I could probably use them on the same project. So those were the buttons from the button shop. As far as actually at the market, the only things I bought from 3 vendors, and the one was Leading Men Fiber Arts. I couldn't stay away. I bought some of their fiber. This is the Steve and Andy colorway, and it's on Superwash BFL. And I told Steve, I'm like, I'm getting this because I'm going to spin this so that I can knit one of my Afghan squares with it. And since it's called Steve and Andy, I said, I'll be sleeping with you guys. I know, weird and probably slightly inappropriate, but he laughed. And then I had told Jim, I'm like, why don't you go over to Steve and Andy's booth and pick out a skein of yarn, and I'll knit you a pair of socks with it, because I really like their yarn. And so we went over together, and this is the colorway he picked out, Sucker Punch, which is got this cherry pink and purple and gray. So that's what he wants socks out of, and I am more than happy to knit him some. So I will be doing that, and that's out of the Showstopper base too. So then the other things I bought, and I can't find them. I stuck them in a bag somewhere, and I have not located them yet. But I bought a set of stitch markers from Absolute Wonder. She was actually vending kind of right across from my booth, and they're really cute. They're the same sort of little loop stitch markers like I just showed you from the other set, with little white beads on them, and then the start of the row stitch marker has a little silver wire yarn ball hanging from it. It was really cute, and I was looking at them the whole entire time through the market, and they were still there by the end of the day, so I went over and I bought them. I told her, I said, they've been sitting here staring at me. They're still here. They're meant to be mine. So they came home with me. And then lastly, I bought 2 bags, the one of which I can't show you because I already gave it to Emma. It was just a little one, a little pouch kind of bag with mustaches on the fabric. It was really cute. But the one I bought for me was a big bag, and it has bow ties, which bow ties are cool. And this is from the Silver Shed, which is actually Amy's mom. And she had a ton of bags, and they were all so cool. I love this one because it's super big, and it has a really long strap on it. Like, I have it doubled right now, and it's still nice and long. Honestly, I couldn't use it as long as it actually is because it would probably be hanging down to my thighs. But I like it doubled, and it's just, I need big bags right now. That's what I'm short on. I've got lots of smaller bags, but this will be great. And I could actually use this as a purse if I really needed to. But I just loved the bow ties. They were fun. So anyway, that was it. Those are all my new things, all my goodies. And again, just had a fabulous time at the retreat. Again, thank you, Amy and Megan, for putting on a wonderful event. The only 10% thing I have to talk to you about is the fact that Emma's graduation party is this weekend, so that's sort of why I gave myself this weekend off from doing very much work, or this week off, because I have a lot of stuff to get ready for that. So yesterday I ran around and I bought like all our paper products, and it's fun because homeschooling, we don't have school colors. So we could pick whatever colors we want, and so we got like these really bright, like lime green and cherry pink and purple and like this bright blue, you know, for everything. It's going to be so much fun. I can't wait. Ordered balloons. I still have to order some of the food like chicken and stuff, but I can do that today. We're getting the cake from where she is doing her internship, and yeah, it's going to be fun. Just fingers crossed that it does not torrentially rain on Saturday. They're calling for like 30 or 40% chance of rain showers right now. We have a pavilion at the park, so we'll see. Yeah. Anyway, just hoping that that goes off. I can't wait. I want her to really enjoy this. She deserves this. Anyway, that's it. Now, I do have shop news, and I am going to be doing a show leftovers update on Friday, this Friday, the 27th at noon p.m. Eastern. So I'm going to pause here so that I can run and I can get all the stuff. There's no way I can show you absolutely everything I'm going to be putting in the update, but I will be putting it all in preview mode today and tomorrow, so you'll be able to see it. There's a lot, and there will be a fiber sale. So if you want to hear about that, hang on. I'll be right back. And if you don't want to, that's fine too. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay, we're back. It's the shop news section of the show. And the main piece of administrati that I have to share with you is that the second quarter finished object drawing period is coming to a close rapidly. You have until Monday, June 30th, to finish whatever you are working on out of either Fiber Nymph Dyework yarn or Fiber Nymph Dyework fiber, and posting your finished object picture to the second quarter drawing finished object thread in the Fiber Nymph Dyeworks group. So that is coming up. I'll leave it open through the 30th and then probably close it July 1st. So you'll have time to post your pictures. And then obviously there'll be a third quarter thread that will open after that. But I will do the drawing for the $25 gift certificate following like the next podcast, probably next week or so. Okay. Shop update. All right. As usual, whenever I do a show, I come home and there's always show orphans and leftovers. And even though I'm holding back probably about half of what I have left, I'm going to be holding and keeping for SSK plus dyeing a whole bunch of new stuff. But I wanted to put a whole bunch up, and honestly, there's probably enough here for 2 updates, but I'm going to put it all up in one big update. Partly because there's a lot of fiber, and Tour de Fleece is coming up, as I just said earlier in the show, starting July 5th. So if you still would like some fiber, you can grab some, and all of the fiber is going to be discounted 15%. It's not really an annual sale because I don't think I did it last year, but I'm doing it this year. So Tour de Fleece, my Tour de Fleece sale will be 15% off, and you don't need a coupon code. It'll just be automatically priced at the 15% off price. That's for braids of fiber. I have a bunch of little bats that I did for the show that I'm also going to be putting in the update. Those will not be discounted because they're small and they're fairly inexpensive to begin with. Just the braids of fiber will be the 15% off. So, okay, I'm going to start going through all this stuff. I can't show you everything because there's just too much. So I'm going to show you a good representation of everything, and then I'll let you know the other things that are going to be. Actually, I'll let you know now. There will be some semi-solids, both in DK weight and in fingering weight. Not a whole lot of fingering weight ones, but a bunch of DK weight ones. There are a few inversible sets left over. Those, oh my goodness, people really went for the inversible. So there's not a lot of those left over, but what is left, I'll be putting those up in the shop. Is that everything? Those are probably the 2 main things I'm not showing you right now, are those. Oh, and the bats. I didn't bring all the little individual bats in. I'll take pictures of them. You can see them online, but they're pretty self-explanatory when you see them in the picture. Okay, but here, I'm going to start with the fiber. So again, this will all be part, the fiber, these braids will all be part of the Tour de Fleece sale, 15% off. This one is Falkland, 100% Falkland in the Tiger Lily colorway. When I take pictures of them, as usual, I will have them out of the bag so you can see them better. This one is the Ice Palace Gradient in BFL and Tussa. I love that blend. It's my favorite blend ever. This is Superwash BFL and Nylon in the Orion colorway. So that's a lot of purples. This is also the Superwash BFL and Nylon in the Calypso colorway. This one is BFL in the Mad Dancing Fairies colorway. So turquoise blue, turquoise green, purple. This one is Polworth and Silk in the Strawberry Lemonade colorway. Some of these there's 2 of, some of them there will only be 1. So you'll see that in the shop. This is Here Fishy Fishy in Falkland. There's 2 of these, and this one I can tell you is the one that has more of this peachy salmony color in it. The other one does not have as much. So just letting you know. And I will probably photograph them separately since they are dyed quite differently. This one is Polworth, and this is Dive Bar. This one is the Hot Time Summer in the City colorway. No, you know what? I lied. It's the Heat Waves. Like my socks, the Heat Wave socks, it's a variant on it though because it does not have a white segment. So it's just the burnt red, the orange, and the yellow. No white. The yarn has white. The fiber gradient does not. And that's on Falkland. And lastly, don't fall. Lastly, this one is BFL Tussa, and this isn't a colorway I've never done before. I did it for the show because I had some leftover dyes and I was playing with them. This colorway I'm calling Baroque, B-A-R-O-Q-U-E, not broke, as in, you know, you dropped it and it broke. Baroque. So. Okay, so that is all of the fiber. Now, I have a bunch of DK weight. I take a ton of fingering weight to shows, and then I always take either DK or worsted weight. For the past 2 shows I've done DK. I'm going to put all of that leftover DK up in the shop this time, and I'm going to be taking worsted weight with me to SSK next month. So you're going to have get for grabs all of the DK. So there's a lot of semi-solids, like I said. I'm not going to show you those, but here's the self-striping. And again, there's either 1 or 2 skeins of each of these, and you'll be able to tell that in the shop. So Manic Camo, Artists, Gnome Place Like Home, Bring Me That Horizon, Polly Want a Cracker, Highlighters. This one is Hot Time Summer in the City. Similar colors. The biggest difference is this has hot pink, whereas Heat Waves has that burnt red color. And Sea Monsters Need Love Too. So those are all of the DK weight self-stripers. Oh, I had mentioned earlier that if there's any of the Minnesota Nice, the retreat colorway that I did, if there's any of those left by Friday, because I've offered them up to the retreat goers first, if there was anybody who didn't get one at the show. But if there's any left, I'll put those in the shop, and this is what it looks like. This is what mine turned out to be like. So, and this is on Bounce. I think there's right now I have 4 of them on Bounce and 3 in Elegance. But if there's any left, they'll be up for grabs in the shop. Okay, everything else is, well, no, that's not true. There's some stuff at the bottom that's DK, but I'll get to that. Fingering weight. All right, self-striping fingering weight. On Bedazzled, I have Ice Palace. And again, there are varying, either 1 or 2 skeins of most of these. On Bedazzled, Sheldon's Challenge. Berry Farm on Bedazzled. Star Trekkie. I'm not sure how I ended up with a leftover Star Trekkie because there were several people I know that were still looking for it after the market, so I don't know if they just didn't get there or if they didn't want the sparkly or what. But anyway, Star Trekkie. Gnome Place Like Home. That's also Bedazzled. A lot of these are Bedazzled, actually. This is Bahamian. I'm calling it a variant because when I dyed it, I did the same colors I always do with Bahamian, but they're in a slightly different order because I goofed. But they're still the same colors. So Bahamian on Bedazzled, TARDIS on Bedazzled, and lastly on Bedazzled, Shadowlands. Okay, then on Bounce, there's Soft Kitty, Here Fishy Fishy, and Voodoo. So those are all the self-striping sock leftovers that I have. Then I have 1 lace weight Primordial Sea on Elegance. And then I've got 2 variegated on Sunshine. This is A Murder of Crows, which this is the same colorway I'm doing in the lace weight for that 1-row shawl. So this is what it looks like in the skein on the Sunshine base. Sunshine is like a light fingering weight. So Sunshine, and this is Lydia's Veil also on Sunshine. Okay, then lastly we have some yarn gradients. I have 3 DK weight yarn gradients that come with the download code for the Takuscha cowl pattern. I know you can't really see it very well there, but you'll be able to see it online. So there is 1 in Sunken Treasure Gold, 1 in Earthenware Red, and 1 in Wild Berry. And then I have 3 fingering weight gradients, and these are in the Sunshine base, the light fingering. One is charcoal gray. One is the Good and Plenty gradient. And one is plum, the plum monochromatic gradient, which looks really black in here, but it's not. Let me see if I can get it. Yeah, when I photograph it, you'll be able to see that it's purple. It's a deep purple on the outside. So, okay. So that's everything except, again, the few inversibles I've got, the semi-solids, and all the bats. So it's going to be a really, really big update. So hopefully, if you didn't make it to the market and you didn't make it to my last show, you can have some fun with some of these leftovers, because I feel like there's an awful lot. I think that's everything. Again, the update will be on Friday at 12 o'clock noon Eastern, and I will be working on getting this stuff all up in the shop in preview mode as fast as I can. Today is going to be photography day, and then I'll start doing the listings. So, alrighty, that's everything. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you again next week sometime. And don't forget that the new knit-along starts on Tuesday next week. So if I record on Tuesday, I'll be able to remind you then too. But the head-to-toe knit-along, be watching for those threads going up on the 90% knitting board. And I think that's everything. So have a great week, and thanks for watching. Bye.